Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. Well, a new report shows that a lot of people are experiencing tension in the workplace due to politics. And yeah, this is a pretty hot and heavy political season. And I don't want there to be recency bias. Like, I don't ever remember it being this bad where we're all being called white supremacists and Nazis. It's like, nah, they've always been really bad with the name calling. But I'm asking you, have you experienced some sort of workplace tension because of politics? Are y'all walking on eggshells because you know who gets all offended when you bring up the other guy, he who shall not be named? Well, my first guest is going to address some of this. Welcome to Ray Higdon. He's a workplace expert. Just how bad has politics infected the workplace, Ray?
Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. It's caused so much division and so much. Division's the right and nice word, but hatred, conflict, and it's certainly not just in the workplace, but it's very prominent in the workplace.
So when we talk about the worst case scenario, it used to just be getting fired, but now you can get fired and you can get sued and you can get stained with it, and it'll follow you everywhere on the internet when you try and get a job in the future. And I think that's one of the things adding to the tension is it feels like the stakes are higher.
Yeah, I think, I think most of us have observed that this, cancel culture, which, some of that I've seen this past year has more backfired a little bit. It's not, not as prevalent, but there's still that fear of just being blasted on social media, of just being blasted everywhere. And so it's a weird season right now for sure.
What are some of the common rules of the road people are learning in real time as we evolve with this new technology?
I would just, one safe thing to do here is just assume everyone's filming all the time. Just assume that there's some camera over your shoulder that they will use out of context. Just assume that. However, and this may sound like a contradiction, you can't just walk in fear, right? If there's something that's going on that you need to voice, if you need to address that's affecting the performance of the company or your performance, you need to address that. But just remember that, there's other people going to hear it, and just, be aware of that. So don't be afraid, because some people get so afraid they'll allow just not ethical things to be done and just terrible things to be done. So be willing to speak up, but, careful how you do that.
So what if you're in ownership or management position and someone is bringing these complaints to you?
And so, you want to, look at that. And I always, one thing to keep in mind is you don't want to have favoritism. You want to, and I don't mean politically, I mean personally. All right. You want to look at, what is the production of the person? And here's something that, Jack Welch taught in his book, Straight from the Gut. He said, when you have someone that is of the culture but doesn't have the skills, you mentor them. If you have someone that has the skills but just doesn't have the culture, you fire them.
Wow.
And that's something that if there's a disease in your organization that is constantly the source of drama, instead of you being so worried about, what's going to happen here, you're ruining all the good producers, because all the producers know who the problem is if you have that type of person. Now, if there's a legitimate, concern, and this is someone that isn't ringing the bell every 5 minutes, then, you look into it and you ask, look for the evidence there and see what is their past performance and, what does that look like? But, that at the end of the day, if that boss doesn't have the guts to know that they need to produce to stay in business, then everyone loses their job.
Yeah, and then when you think about it at the macro level, those small businesses that get big enough, you see almost all of them have to make some sort of political nod. They have to do promotions that are in line with certain issues, or, could climate change or saving the planet or recycling push. Or it feels like if your company gets big enough, politics is going to enter it at some point.
I had the chance to spend time and have a nice conversation with David Green, the founder of Hobby Lobby, who, as a kid, he dreamed of being a dime store manager, but instead he started Hobby Lobby and has 45,000 employees. And that's a guy that has built an $8 billion a year company who donates over 50% of their profits, and he does not bend to who he donates to, or he doesn't hold any kind of those lines. And I think that's admirable. I think, you shouldn't. If you're, if your faith or your wherever you are in your walk, if you don't see that this is something of good, I don't think you should give money to something you don't believe in.
Ray Higdon, tell them where they can find you outside of the James Show.
Absolutely. I'm all over social media 6 days a week. I do a live video talking about business, finance, faith, God, money, Bible. And so you can check me out, find me all over social media.
Ray Higdon, thank you very much. And I want to ask you, because I want to hear your stories. And this is the time when it's okay to call in with a fake name, and you can change the names to protect the innocent. But do you have a story about something that happened in your workplace where politics has gotten in the way? Because I've heard, stories from my personal friends, and they tell me, we just have someone that we work with that thinks we're white supremacist Nazis. And how are you supposed to get along with someone like that? And I don't know. Money? That's what the money's for, isn't it? But if you have any stories like that, I want to hear them. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. And I'm aware it works both ways. There could be someone who is working with like a fundamentalist Christian who disapproves of their homosexual lifestyle, and it's made things really awkward. So I don't care which side of the political spectrum you're coming from. I want to hear your politics has made the workplace awkward story. 800-288-9227. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. It kind of connects to yesterday's show where I was playing you over and over and over viral videos of people who were scared of the American flag, or they hated the American flag, or it represents hatred or racism, or they assume whoever flies the American flag, it's probably just a racist white person, a hateful, racist, Christo-fascist white supremacist, probably likes the worst thing in the world. You know what the new scariest thing is? I thought it was me because I'm worse than bears. I've been passed. I passed bears, and now passing me, scariest thing in the world, Project 2025. Oh, my goodness. This is the scariest thing. Have you read all this? Yeah, it's 700 pages. I haven't read it. I'm not going to read it. Just don't even ask me to read it. I don't care. I don't think anyone's read it, except for like the 12 people that wrote it. And I don't think anyone is criticizing it has read it. But this has been an incredibly tense political season. And I want to know, has it affected the tension at your workplace or within your family? I just want to hear your stories on how politics is really getting in between us. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. This is Bob in Paris. I assume the real Paris and not that fake copy over in France, right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, sir.
What? Go ahead.
Your story of political tension.
Okay, I retired a few years ago, but because I had been politically just washed out.
Wait.
But,
you retired because of politics?
Yes.
What were you doing?
I was in a skilled trade in a local factory, and this started back when Obama got elected. There were things in the workplace that got a lot of discussion. There was a person who favored Obama and thought Obama could do no wrong, who had a lot in common with Obama, who was a standout in my department. Now, we have of course, in any industry, you have rules about violence and disagreeing and whatever. Whenever anyone would say anything negative about Obama, be it a policy or whatever, this guy would stand up in front of everybody and scream, "You're a racist! You're a racist!" And there's no defense against that.
Well, yeah, because the defense is no, I'm not.
I mean, it's the R word. So finally, I've had enough, and I always push the envelope. I stayed an inch away from getting fired at all times over my mouth. But finally, one day we were in the break room, and he did this, "You're a racist," over a comment I'd made, and I said, "Listen, person, and I was surrounded by several workers, and I said, if you use the R word on me again, I'm going to consider that as offensive, as if I use the N word on you, and I'm going to take an action which will require that I be fired, but you're going to get fired too, because you're going to have to engage in that. I wouldn't make a direct threat and say what I was going to do, because it did include violence, but it was one of those deals of he would not shut up until somebody finally pushed him and said, "You're going to lose your job." And that trend continued. There ended up being a big lawsuit driven by politics and those type issues. That further divided the workforce. It became for a person of my characteristics an improbable place to work. After I retired, within a year, all of the management people, except for a couple that were of my type, were fired and replaced with persons of that person's type. So I'm kind of talking in generalities, because you know what I mean, but I'm not just going to say anything
Thank you for sharing your story, Bob and Paris. I've heard several versions of that, but I don't think people who throw around the racist accusation, do they realize how offensive that is? I mean, that's a horrible thing to call somebody. I don't take it very lightly. It's like, really, you're associating me with the people who did slavery and lynching and segregation and Jim Crow and the KKK. I mean, these are all coincidentally Democrat policies. Everything I just listed there, but don't associate and don't throw that around so lightly. First of all, here's the best comeback that I've come up with in my lame little experience dealing with these issues is someone accuses me of being a racist. I say, listen, we agree. The definition of racism is if you believe that different groups of people have different characteristics, immutable characteristics that render them superior or inferior to other races based on their skin color, right? Okay, well, I don't believe that. So I don't believe in racism, so I'm not a racist. You're going to have to come up with some other reason or accusation or explanation on why we disagree on this issue, but it has nothing to do with the color of anybody's skin. And I don't play in that game because I don't believe in racism. It's not something I believe in. So you're making a false accusation. Continuing to make a false accusation gets us nowhere. And if you want to leave the room and still believe I'm a racist and I'm lying about it, well, then I can't stop you. But that's not very rational. And how do you advance any conversation under those terms? So yeah, we just talked to a workplace expert about the political environment causing tension in the workplace. But Bob's story comes from what must be 10 or so years ago, maybe even further back than that. I really don't remember a time when the politics weren't at each other's throat. I hear stories about how I remember when Walter Cronkite used to tell us straight, no, he didn't. Well, I remember when the New York Times was, no, it wasn't. It's always been pretty bad. In fact, there have been many times in our country's history where it's worse than this. I believe in this political tension. We have a lot of recency bias, and I mean on both sides of the aisle. We talk about how bad Antifa is, when the people who want anarchy, or at least they say they want anarchy, they have the anarchy symbols on their backpacks and whatnot, and they fly the black flag, and they wear all black, and they go destroying buildings. Well, that was happening 100 years ago. We had the anarchists doing riots. In 1920, in that election season, they set off a bomb in New York City once a month, the anarchists did. Now, we don't remember that because nothing much came of it. It was just a bunch of young college kids who believed in Marxism having a hissy fit, and it didn't really affect the election the way that they'd hoped. In fact, good old Calvin Coolidge came out on top of that one. But we forget, or we just don't know. When were you told that about 1920 New York City? I know, we don't really care too much about the history of that place.
New York City!
I know, get a rope. But, before that, just one generation, there's a little thing called the Civil War. I dare say politics was more divisive in the fact that brothers were shooting at each other. So things are bad, but generally speaking, if we could just both remember that we're on the same team, we both want the same thing. We both want this country to be great. Well, most of us. We just have different opinions on how to get there. No one's a Nazi. No one's Hitler. There was only one guy in human history that was bad enough to be called Hitler. His name's Hitler. And no one else is even close. I mean, the guy literally set up death camps and started systematically trying to exterminate a race of millions of people. And then when the war effort turned against him. And the general said, listen, you're going to have to make a choice. Either you're going to put more resources to the war effort or we're going to lose, or you can put more resources into your final solution. He goes, the final solution. I don't care if we lose the war. His driving motivation was exterminating a race of people. Okay, that's the most evil thing we've ever seen throughout history. And no one, not even Orange Man Bad, is close to that level of evil. So if we could just all take back the rhetoric, stop with the scaremongering. Let's get back to policies. And even if your guy happens to be a human Roomba, we don't have to call people Nazis and racists and Hitler. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Jerry J. Man Joyner, the host of the Weed and Whiskey podcast, because now weed is catching up to alcohol when it comes to car crashes. That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Who said you could play Madonna? I'm just playing. It's fine. It's fine. Hey, politics. Has it ruined a relationship? We were talking about it earlier at work, but then I wanted to ask, has politics ruined a relationship between you and a girl? Between you and a spouse? I know it's probably ruined some relationships between siblings and maybe even a parent and a kid, but like a romantic relationship. Is it really that important? Let's go to the phones. 800-288-9227. Eddie and Alan, you're on WBAP. What do you think?
All right. I think it contributed to the demise of my marriage because up to that point, I didn't really think about politics. I voted Obama twice. I voted Democrat. I voted Democrat all the way up to when Trump ran in 2016. And then I had a big decision to make, a big decision. Am I going to vote for Hillary Clinton and get Billary back in the office? No, I didn't want Bill back in office with Hillary. And then I had Trump, and I said, you know what? I love The Apprentice. I love Trump all the way from the 80s all the way to the time he ran. I said, I'm voting for this guy. Let's give him a shot. My wife at the time did not know that I voted Trump. She thought I voted Hillary. She, of course, voted Hillary. And it got down to the point where it was like an hour after it was called, and everybody was crying. Everybody was so emotional they wanted to leave the country and live somewhere else. And then I had to I had to confess. I looked at her and said, "Hey, I voted for Trump," and she looked at me with the well of tears in her eyes, about to spill over into an ocean of crying. And she says, "You what?" I said, "Yeah, I voted for Trump." How could you? I can't believe you! You ruined everything! And then it was downhill from there.
Well, you were in a red state. He was going to win the same amount of electoral votes, no matter how Eddie and Alan voted. But no, look. You're the second person who's told me that story. There was a guy, because when the election happened, I was in New Orleans, and there was a guy he was a listener, but he turned into a friend, and his wife basically broke up with him because she was a big Obama supporter. And she knew that he was on Team Red the whole time. They've always just been a divided house, and it's never been a problem. But she's like, if you vote for Trump, we're going to have a problem. He's like, you can't tell me how to vote. It's like, I was going to vote for him, but now I'm going to vote for him even harder. And they didn't last 2 more years after the election. She moved out like within months. And I've never seen that, never heard of that. And I've actually been in a relationship with a girl she turned out to be a Bernie bro, but I knew her. We dated before Bernie Sanders was a thing. And, you know, that was kind of a source of tension, but never did I think, well, I can't be with this woman. Go ahead. Well,
now I'm thinking, I've never been on a dating site before. I just jumped on one to check things out, and it started talking about gender and what you identify as and what your politics are. And I'm looking at and I'm saying, no, I don't want to date. I don't want to date somebody who voted for the policies of the loser, horrific downfall of the left. So I don't want to. You got to be in one accord politically.
Well, look, you're a more noble person than me, Eddie, because Scarlett Johansson believes politically the opposite of what I do. But if she came up and wanted to make out, am I going to push her away? Is that what I'm going to do?
We're not.
Would you push Scarlett Johansson away?
No, and I just talked about her yesterday. I pulled her up on the internet to show somebody. I said, Scarlett Johansson is one of the hottest, most baddest BITC mamas in the world, but I couldn't get in a relationship with her if she was voting for bitch-ass Biden.
Wow, I disagree. I think that's where I agreed with you all the way up to that point. I don't care if Scarlett Johansson was a full red communist. I will give her a beautiful life. I will tell her she's pretty in the morning. I will buy her flowers. I will rub her feet. I will get her chocolate at Valentine's. I will be the best husband ever. And look, if Miss Parker was a full red communist, well, we just have to work a few things out. I miss Parker. But it would work out. One more. I got time for Fred and Farmers Branch. You're next up on the James Show on WBAP. What do you think, Fred?
Well, Fred, Farmers Branch. I'm a senior, and I'm out in the dating world, and I've come across some really great ladies. But as soon as I found out and they spewed out the hatred for Trump and they're on Biden's side, and I just think it's so stupid. And so I couldn't continue a relationship with that kind of attitude because it just wouldn't work. And going forward, I'm looking to maybe find somebody to get married to in the future, and we got to be on the same page. And if we're not, it's never going to work. So it is important. It shouldn't be this way, but the division is there, and everybody knows it. And so you either got to live with it, which gets in your gut, and suck it up with the other person, or you find somebody that's compatible and thinks like you do. And I think that's a more enjoyable lifestyle.
Yeah, I try and imagine the hypothetical. Like, what if there's a woman who is perfect in all ways? She's kind of tall. She's got a great body, beautiful face. She's redhead. She's smart. She's musical. She can sing well. She's a good mother. She has, she's fun to hang out with, but she just happens to be a socialist. Could you get with that?
No.
Fair enough. All right. I asked. Fred and Farmers Branch answered it. I appreciate the straightforward response. I don't know. That always seems something that's fungible to me because it's also something that you can expect that to evolve over time, too. Because like when I met Miss Parker, she was not nearly as libertarian as she is now. But if you have to sit next to me for 13 years, I can have that effect on you somewhat. So, anyway, great discussion to have. 800-288-9227. Have you ever broken up over politics? Seriously, I think I can get along with any girl if she's just nice and beautiful and fun to hang out with and talented. And politics doesn't seem to be like the first, second, or even third priority for me. But listen, hey, I want to remind you, I'm going to be live. I'm doing a live remote on Monday and Tuesday. They're doing the whole All-Star Village thing for the Major League Baseball All-Star game that's at the end of next week. Well, Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to be down there. I'm going to be in the Esports Coliseum. For some of you, that's where they play video games competitively in a giant stadium. It's next to there's the Globe Life Field. Next to that's Choctaw Arena, the old baseball field. Next to that is the Esports Arena. So I get to be in air conditioning. And listen, I'm going to be the only dude broadcasting from WBAP. And I know the ticket's going to be all the cool kid at prom because this is a sporting event, but I'll be there too. So stop by and say hi and don't make me feel like such a nerd at the end of the table. This is the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Now look, I think you can still be funny and be political at the same time. That's one of the things we do on this show, or attempt to do on this show every day. Try and be relevant. Try and take the news of the day. Just sprinkle in a little comedy so that way I'm not like C-SPAN boring the snot out of you. You can be informed and know what's going on in the world. I can still get decent ratings and feed my children. Everybody's happy. But this is supposed to be a news show with a little bit of comedy sprinkled into it. The Late Show, The Tonight Show, these late night talk shows, whether it's Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, any of the other Jimmys, there's Seth Meyers in there, but Stephen Colbert is the one we're going to be looking at today. They're sort of the opposite. These are comedy shows. They're supposed to be comedy first with maybe a little politics sprinkled in. However, check out how poorly these people can function given their just overwhelming obsession and derangement when it comes to Orange Man Bad. And this isn't necessarily a Trump thing, because if Trump goes away, I'm sure they'll be this deranged about whoever replaces him as the titular head of Team Red. But they've also really are working themselves up about this Project 2025. Now, do you even know what that is? Have you even heard of that before? I know you haven't read it. It's like 700 pages. It's from the Heritage Foundation. Elsa Kurt and I were talking about it a bit ago. And look, every 4 years, the Heritage Foundation, conservative think tank, been there for your entire life. Every 4 years, they put out their little wish list, their little blueprint of what they would like to see accomplished in the next presidential administration. But it's been seized on like this is Donald Trump's secret blueprint to turn us into the Handmaid's Tale. And then they go through picking apart what's sort of basic conservative principles and acting like it's the Handmaid's Tale. Now, if you are able to make jokes about that and have people busting over, holding their side, laughing, well, then you still have a great little comedy show. You just managed to sprinkle in some politics. But tell me, they're not even attempting to be funny here.
But don't you dare buy it. Trump is just as insane and as fascist as ever. Look no further than a plan hatched
Hang on. First off, he's insane and fascist. This is the premise on which it's built. Now, that would be funny if he was exaggerating for comedic effect, or if he was, using hyperbole for comedic effect. But he means that. Really? Your political opponent happens to be an insane fascist? It couldn't be that you're irrational here. You have an irrational fear of them. It couldn't be that you've been propagandized to hate this guy. Or maybe you're the one doing the propagandizing because you are the guy on TV telling other people that he's... Do you see, I can't even get past one sentence with these people. Because Stephen Colbert is not stupid. He's chosen the wrong political ideology for sure. But he's not a dumb man. He's not like a low IQ individual. And does he really think Trump is insane? Does he really think Trump is a fascist? Or does he just say that because he's using his platform to help get the political results he prefers? I don't know. But anyway, I'll let the audio go this time.
By former members of his administration called Project 2025. It is
when he says former members of his administration, yeah, some people go and work for the Heritage Foundation. And some people from the Heritage Foundation, when the Republicans get in office, they get hired to do some of these little dinky jobs, or they get referenced as advisors, or, some of their emails, some of their work is cited by the Trump administration. So when he says this number 200 people, well, yeah, there's probably 200 people who've advised or spoken on behalf or done some interviews on behalf of, or they've had their work cited by someone within the Trump administration. But he's trying to act like there's some cabal of this Trump political machine that just cranked out Project 2025, like it really is some Trumpian blueprint. But no, this is the Heritage Foundation. Heritage Foundation was there long before Trump was born, was there long before Trump was anything political, will be there long after he's gone. So this isn't some Trump cabal. This is from the Heritage Foundation. Anyway, let me start it over. I'll try not to comment this time.
But don't you dare buy it. Trump is just as insane and as fascist as ever. Look no further than a plan hatched by former members of his administration called Project 2025. It is a blueprint. Oh. You've been reading up.
No, they haven't. None of those people have read it.
For a radical far-right takeover of everything in the U.S. government that, among many other scary things, proposes that Trump take direct presidential control of the entire federal bureaucracy, including independent agencies such as the Department of Justice. Trump's just going to fill all these positions with his cronies.
Well, see, that's what the Constitution says. It says the president is the head of the executive branch and can make appointments and fulfill positions as he sees fit. He's already used like the term scary and fascist. And
so get ready for FBI Director Lee Greenwood, God Bless the USA Bible for only $59.99. The authors of Project 2025 want Trump to issue an executive order that makes it easier to fire government workers than replace them with what the project calls an army of loyal conservatives to be trained to fill those posts. So all government workers are to be replaced by MAGA loyalists.
I mean, it doesn't say that exactly, but I mean, how does that make you feel when the government workers that are in there now, like that are in the FBI and stuff? Yeah, Hunter's laptop. We're not going to do anything with that. That's fake. That's false information. Anyway, he continues.
Project 2025 is an obvious and chilling blueprint for a Christo-fascist future.
All right, stop it. We're done. Does this sound like a comedy show? Is anybody laughing, making Christo-fascist jokes? There was no joke coming up there. He's just scaremongering in what's supposed to be a comedy show. He's inventing this new lore around quadrennial report that's been coming up from the Heritage Foundation ever since you were born, acting like it's some new blueprint. And right on the other side of it is blessed be the fruit, and under his eye, like the Handmaid's Tale, and all you women are going to be running around town dressed like a ketchup bottle. This is The James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.